Welcome to Happy Hour with Haley. I'm Haley Chura, joined once again 2 weeks in a row by Jocelyn Wong-Star Neal. Hi, Jocelyn.
Hi, Haley.
And special guest this week, Jen Lachowiec from Bozeman, Montana. We're not in the same space, but we are in the same city. Jen, thank you for joining.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Jen is, like I mentioned, from Bozeman, a friend, and she also just raced Coeur d'Alene 70.3. Like, has it even been a week? It's like 1 week ago, right?
Exactly a week, yeah.
Yes. How are you feeling?
I'm almost there. The Friday swim, I still felt tired legs, so I'm hoping over this weekend it was some good couple more days of good rest.
Yes. So Jen and I do swim together here in Bozeman, and then I am someday going to join some of her rides when I finally unpack my bike. I've been a little slow, but you've been very patient with me. And you are here, of course, this week because we are going to finally have our long-awaited book club discussion on Mary Cain's book called This Is Not About Running. Jen doesn't have a copy because I have her copy. Sorry, Jen. This is Jen's copy she lent to me.
We're holding up our books.
Yes, as we hold up our books. So thank you both for your patience as you waited for me to slowly read. I did eventually, because I had to spend some time in the car this past weekend. I did eventually just get the audiobook, and so I did a combo of like reading an audiobook, which is kind of I never would have done this before, but I actually kind of liked it. Mary does read the book.
She does.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Yes, and like there's very emotional parts of this book, and she gets very emotional reading it, and so I do think some of that did add versus me like imagining her voice, and I was able to get the book done. So I'm in this new world where I'm like, maybe it's okay. There's not just one right way to do it. So for all the audiobook listeners out there, I'm one of you. But okay, did everyone bring a drink? Jen, this is your first time on the show, but I know you've listened before. I don't know if I prepared you properly, but what did you bring? What'd you do?
I decided to go with a what do we call them now? An adaptogen drink, kind of.
Oh.
So it's like a botanical. It's this Dram brand. This one I don't even know what's in it that makes it an adaptogen, but it has lavender and lemon balm, so it's very floral.
Is it good?
Have
you tried it?
I poured it, but I haven't tried it yet.
Wait, so what exactly is an adaptogen drink?
So it's kind of like instead of your alcohol to calm you down, sometimes it has things like ashwagandha or some of those other natural effects. I don't know which components, there's several of them out there. I think lion's mane mushroom is another one, but yeah. So we'll see if it has a calming, mental clarity, digestive support effect.
Whoa. Like if you get a buzz.
We'll see.
Jocelyn, what are you drinking?
Okay, I was in a rush, so I just have my my Dogfish 60-minute IPA, which apparently I learned from you talking with Aaron Trail that IPAs are basic.
So her husband, the brewer, did comment on the reel saying he supports IPA drinking. So
I always felt like IPAs were sophisticated. Like I'm not like I'm not good enough at beer drinking to have advanced to IPA.
I like that. I like that perspective.
I thought I was more sophisticated.
I've always been a little bit worried that I'm a little basic, but I had dinner at Jen's house this last week, and she bought me an IPA, which was so nice, and I did drink it, so it was great. I also have an IPA. I think it's called Road to Wisdom.
Oh,
IPA. This was from my parents. I think they bought this. It's actually from Anaconda, Montana, which is up the road, and I was in the Butte, Anaconda area this past weekend for the Copper Kings 100. I had an athlete, Andy, who raced it, and he did finish, which was very exciting. His first 100-miler. And So it feels appropriate, and I also like the name and the label,
Road to
Wisdom.
Yeah, the label is
Wisdom.
great.
I feel
Yes.
like that's like what we were doing today with our book club and our reading or listening and talking. We're trying to get a little bit more wisdom. And then you two are both like very smart science people, so that's why you're also here to balance out my myself, because Jen is a professor at Montana State. Jocelyn, obviously prosthetist, orthotist with a lot of chemistry background.
Wait,
So
Jen, what do you teach?
I teach like biostats classes, but I'm a plant scientist.
Whoa.
I know you two would have some one of these days you'll have to, Jocelyn, you'll have to come out here. You guys can have some fun conversations without me. Or I'll come on the bike and I'll just like, be there for comic relief and waving at cars, and then you two can chat.
I
know
kill
like,
plants. Maybe you could teach me not to
Ooh.
kill plants.
I also can kill many a plant.
Oh, even though you're a plant scientist.
Yes. On purpose and not on purpose. Yeah.
Oh.
That's why I have students grow them.
it's a good use. So I am very curious. How long has it been since you finished the book, Jocelyn? I know that you first brought this to attention and
Oh my gosh.
you wanted to talk about it, and then it's taken me like a long time to finish. And so how did you end up picking this book, and like what have you been thinking since then?
Oh my gosh. So I was just checking back at my old text messages because I know Katie, who's co-hosted the podcast, I think she read it first because we have a group chat. And I was like, yeah, I just ordered it. And she's like, I need someone to talk about this too, like, because she finished it super fast.
Oh.
So then I started reading it, and then I finished, it looks like May 13th.
Okay,
So
well, I did not.
like a month and a half ago.
I forgot that part that Katie initially started it. I would have invited her on. I think she is en route to, hopefully, I think she was having some passport issues, but maybe en route to South America for a triathlon adventure. But I think that's okay, that's been a while. But so was it reading Katie's text that made you pick up the book, or did you
No,
want to read it
so
ahead of
I
time?
mean, I've been following Mary Cain like on social media for a while. Like I'm familiar with her story, especially when that New York Times piece came out. And then remember when she experimented with triathlon and she got her pro license and like did one, maybe two races? And so we were like, oh. And then when she switched her allegiance to Ireland, I was like, she's going to try to make the
Wait,
Irish triathlon team. Like that was my hypothesis. But then
she
she's,
switched her allegiance to Ireland?
yeah, isn't it at the end of the book?
Maybe I didn't quite finish the book. I think I have like 4 pages left.
Okay.
I had to get on here and I was on another conversation, but I missed that part. I mean, I did know she did triathlon. I interviewed her for my previous show and after one of her early triathlons.
You've
And
interviewed everyone that's like written a book that you've read.
I know, and now they're all so big. I like get in while people are still like not quite as famous, and then now they're all so famous, and I can't quite get them. And apparently, I missed the part where she went to Ireland. Well, maybe if I get like a wild hair, I'll have her come back. I'll be like, Mary, come have a beer with us, or an adaptogen drink.
There we go.
Yeah, Jen, how about you? How did you end up picking up this book?
I remember her name. So I don't know if it was still in the time of paper Runner's World magazines, probably not. But just following like this phenom and like seeing her times and when she was in high school and kind of like waiting for her to come up and then having, her fade away from being around. And then like you said, Jocelyn, about the New York Times article, I actually rewatched that like within the last hour to remember what she put together for the video portion. And so when I saw, I think just, social media came out that the book was out and I was like, ooh, I want to know. I want to hear her side. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And Jen, you've been in the sport for a long time. I know you do officiating for several sports. You are involved in youth sports. Have you ever coached?
I've never coached. No, except my little brother's 3-on-3 soccer team when I was in high school.
That's really nice of you.
It was cute.
But you do I mean, Jen does, I know she's done officiating for swim meets and whitewater rafting and various, have you done other or you volunteered at the
No,
Bozeman
just,
Tri? You
yeah,
weren't an
just like
official,
local stuff. Yeah.
but you've been around, and which has a youth sport component. And then obviously as a professor, you are around the youth. Jocelyn, have
Mhm.
you ever coached?
Oh, so after I graduated college, I took a gap year where I was like trying to figure out my life. And so I did assistant coach my high school track
Oh, you
team.
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
so what year was that? That was like,
Oh, 2004.
okay. And I'm curious of like, especially having been in running, like track
Yeah.
specifically, which is obviously,
Yeah.
it's not called This Is Not About Running, but it is about running. I mean, that was a sport she did, and swimming, but a lot of running. And uh can you tell us a little bit about like the culture? Did you see the similarities between the culture that you saw in 2004 on the high school track team and Mary's high school track team?
No, not at all. I mean, I
Okay.
remember last week on the podcast, I was like raving about how awesome my high school coach was and how
Yes.
he got honored and they named the track after him. And no, it was nothing like the book. Although, oh, another previous guest, Catherine Bertine, I remember she grew up somewhere in upstate New York, and she's also, of course, she's a fellow author and avid reader. So I also was texting her about this book, like, "Did you read it yet? Aren't you from that area?" And it turns out she went to the same high school, ran for the same running coach.
Similar years?
No, no, no. She's much older. I
Did
think
she
she
give you
just
any
turned.
tea? Like, did she tell you about what was it like? Was it like how Mary described it?
So Catherine said she was also the top, and I don't think she cares if I tell you guys and the whole podcast world, but she said she was also the top runner there and experienced a very similar thing to like the crazy other parents and stuff. Um, and she said the coach Mitch was not as creepy. So
As
this was
Mary
like
describes him.
as what she was sad that he got creepier. So he was creepy, I guess, and got creepier.
Wow, that is wild because I think there has to be, I don't know Catherine's exact age, but I would guess almost 20 years between the two of them and that experience there and the culture of the team and the town. Jen, you grew up doing sports. What kind of teams were you on and what was
Yeah,
the culture on those?
I was on club swim team as a kid, and then my high school, I lived in an area where every high school had a pool, and so we had I'd swim club in the summers, but then I did high school swim, during the winter season, and then I did cross country and track. So rotated through those three sports
You were
for
like
4 years.
Mary. I mean, that is almost like what she was doing. I felt like she
That
felt a
is
lot of
true.
pressure between the two sports, but you were able to do all
Mhm.
three.
Because they were separate seasons and it was this like there was no club versus high school divide, I feel like where I lived. Like people the fastest swimmers all swam high school and usually the club coach was often the high school coach as well. So it was super synergistic in terms of like having a really strong summer season or to like support your rest of the year. And a lot of people did multiple sports across like our towns, our counties nearby. So
What part of the country was this?
this is Northwest Indiana, but like the Chicago suburbs area.
Okay.
Okay. And
Yeah,
you
so
felt like that there was there animosity on the team? Did coach have
not
favorites?
not like that. Nothing like that. And I think in terms of like intensive parents, I can think of a few cross country track moms on other schools that I remember those moms. Like I remember a few of them being intense and being intimidating, but not it wasn't hordes of them, like it sounds
Wow.
like it might have been at their school.
Yeah. I think I had the benefit. I went to benefit. I say benefit now. I went to 3 different high schools in when I was in high school and mostly in Colorado and South Carolina. And so I got to see quite a bit of different things. One of them, I don't think I actually participated in any sports teams, but I did run cross country. I did also run track and then I did do swimming. And in Colorado it was 3 different seasons. I will say the cross country coach in Colorado, I think what I learned from him, his name is Craig Luckison, and I I I just admire that man so much, and I think my love of running today is because of him, and he knew when, he met me as a freshman or no, in 8th grade. I think he came and, like, recruited at the local
Whoa.
junior high. Yes, and I put on there, like, I wanna swim in college. Like, I knew in 8th grade I wanna swim in college, but I might be interested in running because I had done I was kind of like one of the better runners on the swim team kinda thing, and I enjoyed running in PE, and so he the tone he set on the team, and this is, like, my perspective, was it was okay for me to come be a part of the team and run less. A lot of times we would do these run workouts that were at this park that was adjacent to the pool. And so he would put my bike, I would ride my bike to school and he'd put my bike in the back of his truck. I would run over there with the team, do the workout. And instead of going back to the school with the team, I'd walk up to the pool and I'd go to swim practice. And so he
What?
really like made it possible for me
Yeah.
to continue my club swimming, and no one on the team gave me a hard time for not being at
That's
practice
so
every
nice.
day.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and so I would only run maybe like twice a week with that team, and no one gave me a hard time. No one did at all.
I didn't know that you even ran in high school.
I did. I know. And again, I was not the best person on the team, but I did okay. Like, I did okay, and I got to run in the Colorado State Championship meet. And I also had another very impactful moment where my freshman year, with how the timing was, they told us we won. They told us we won the state championship at the state meet, and this coach, he actually had done, like, scoring by hand on his own and realized there had been a mistake. And he went up and was like, "No, you didn't win," and he made us give the trophy back to the other team. And this is, like,
Whoa.
me as a freshman, I'm like, we were so excited, we had taken pictures with
Yeah.
it, we were so pumped, and he was like, "No, something's wrong," and he made us, like, give the trophy back. We were like, and, like, they were like, "No, we got it, it's all right," and he's like, "No, this is my scoring, this other team won." And so we gave the trophy to the other team, and it did come out that he was right. We had not won. There had been a scoring error.
Wait, was that cross
And
country or track?
yes, cross
Cross
country.
country.
So, like,
Okay.
they had scored one of
Tracking
our runners
players.
too high.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and he knew that, like, he
Yeah.
was counting the numbers, and he was like, "No, no, no, we didn't win." And so it was like I think that was a very impactful moment for me in
Yeah,
my
that
life
is
of
like
having
ultra
Right.
lesson of integrity, right?
because we could have gotten away with it, right? And all of us, like, on the team, like, wanted to win so bad. And I remember there was like a sign in his office where it was like, it would have been 1999 and it had 1990, like an empty mark for when we were going to win the state championship. So it was the last time we could possibly win in the 90s, and we didn't do it. But like, I think about that a lot. I think that was one of the best lessons I learned in high
Yeah.
school, was the ethics and integrity, and like, when you actually want to win, like, you want to have actually won. And so it's kind of the complete opposite of what Mary experienced. I feel like I
Uh-huh.
have this like
Yeah.
wonderfully supportive, love, like, incredible environment.
Ethical.
And yeah, and it's probably why now at 40 I am, I'm able to run like I have. I had the pro triathlon career where I was not injured, and I
Mhm.
also love running. And so it makes me
Yeah.
very sad for Mary. Jocelyn, do you have any other thoughts on, like, her high school career, like the other parents? As a parent,
It's just
how do you feel about the other parents?
that was just so appalling. Like, so appalling. I know. I mean, I have a 5-year-old. She's just getting into sport. Um, Side note, she passed her Snowplow Sam 1 class, and we just got her first pair of ice skates today.
Are you are you out there? Are you out there on the ice heckling the other children?
No. So far, everyone's been super nice, except for this one really bitchy lady that was in the pro shop today.
Oh, like a parent?
No, just some lady who I
Some
guess
random woman off the street?
it was okay. If you want to know the whole story, we had never gone shopping for ice skates before. I'm so new to like this world. So we go in. All I know is that it's like most of these ice rinks have pro shops inside, and I had heard that the owner is this like retired NHL hockey player. But apparently this is the place to go to, which is kind of fantastic because it's right across the street from where I work. Like, who knew? And people come from all over to like get their skates sharpened by this guy. But it's weird. The hours were weird. And it was like, if you want to see this man, he goes by MF, which I don't know what it stands for, but I always think it stands for like, you know. So, but we'd never been in there before. So we go in and I'm looking around and there's this lady standing right at the cash register. And so I like lock eyes with her thinking like she works there. But then she just stares back at me, doesn't say anything. So I'm like, okay, clearly she does not work here. And then it turns out there's this older gentleman who's like helping another lady lace up some skates. So I was like, okay, that has to be him. Because then there was also a mom with her daughter in there. And then, so then this man like gets up and I like very brightly, I'm just like, hi. And then, but then I turn to the lady at the cash register and I'm like, oh, like, were you waiting for him? You know?
Yeah, that was very nice of you.
Thank you. You know what she says? She looks at me and she's like, well, you saw me right when you came in, didn't you?
This was another customer that was like
customer. And I was just like, okay, like, are all skaters like bitchy like this? Like, I don't know, are they?
You're about to find out over the next like 15 years, maybe.
So clearly she was next in line. So we let her like do what she needed to do. And then the other mom and the daughter were next, which I had no idea. Like all of these other three ladies had brown hair. And I was like, they could have been a family together. I don't know. But yeah, after the first lady left. And also, like, the owner kind of snorted when she said that.
He knows her. He knows her. That wasn't the first time she'd been in that store.
But yeah, when after she left, I was like, wow, well, it was our first time here. I didn't know if she was a customer. And the other mom was like, yeah, I actually thought I thought the same thing when I came in.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, are like skaters like kind of rude like that? And they're like, oh no, like there's
That's just her.
Yeah, so everyone else was like, oh no, like most of the skating community is actually very friendly. And so they knew like Ainsley was getting her first skates and everyone was like, good luck with everything. I'm sure we'll see you around. And no, everybody else was so nice. But I was just like, what? Why are you so mean to me?
You're preparing for anything to come. Jen, as someone who does work with young people in a way, and how do you feel about Mary's high school experience and then how that translated to her like not going to college, like not immediately forgoing that eligibility and going pro?
So a few things come to mind. I feel like first is Mary in terms of like the way she described herself, like she was really she's just self-motivated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think that it seems like no matter, if she had decided that she wanted to, be whatever she wanted to be, she was going to find her way there. Like she wanted to be a medical doctor. That's what she's working on right now, or she's there already. I don't remember where she is in her residency or whatever. And so I think like those self-motivated folks, like they can travel really unique paths because they don't rely on a lot of like external pressure to get them to where they want to be. I feel like we have students who like come in and do, like design your own major and then they go do amazing things. And I feel like that's how she comes across as like
Mm-hmm.
she can make her way. But that's also maybe like part of what maybe backfired a little is that she took care of herself, or like she was very independent and she knew what she wanted, but maybe that made some of the adults who cared for her in her life to kind of give her space and like, oh, Mary knows what she wants. And maybe having more eyes on her, or some whether it had been her teachers in her high school who knew what was happening, or later even like at depending how big your classes are in college, your professors also can see when you're struggling too. And so having some of those educators potentially have had the opportunity to kind of maybe check in on her. But I think that's something that maybe we do to people who seem to have it all figured out. We
It was
just,
so sad to me how she had wanted to go to like an Ivy League school. Like she was very academically strong and she was like really disappointed when like recruiters talked to her about like dumbing down what she wanted to study. And I just felt so bad that like why doesn't anyone want to coach her? Like, it made it
Yeah.
seem she just seemed very trapped, like, with her options after high school. Like, I just couldn't understand why nobody else wanted to coach her. And so then when her dream coach, Alberto, like, shows up, then she, like, just believes in him so hard. But also, I think there was, like, the part where the parents were like, "You could still go to, like, whichever other college," and she kinda, like, looks at them and is like, "No, you know that's not true, like, if I stay with Alberto." Like, it would have had to been, like, University of Oregon or, like, nothing else.
Jen, do you have student athletes in your classes who are trying
I
to balance the sport and school?
I have a few here and there. My class doesn't seem to have a lot of the athletes in it. I have I tend to have a few tennis players. I have more, I guess, quite a bit of hockey, but it's technically club hockey, but our club hockey is pretty competitive. So I don't have I don't think I've had a runner actually come through class. But usually the accommodate it's the system is set up so well for those student athletes to like navigate conflicts that it goes pretty seamlessly. That's been my experience on the professor side. But again, not working with like the football team. I haven't had a football player. What was it like for you, Haley?
Yeah, I was shocked a little bit by Mary, and I'm a little older than Mary. Like 10 years older than Mary, I think. And I was surprised by some of the interactions she recounted with recruiters. And I was a different sport, obviously swimming, not track, but I felt like I was recruited as much for my high school grades as swimming. I mean, I was recruited for swimming, but I felt like some coaches wanted you to also care about
Mhm.
school. And so I never felt that where like they were like, "Why are you taking AP classes?" They're like, "Great, take AP classes. Please help us get a higher GPA." Like it was that, and at Georgia, I do feel like my coach, Jack Bowerly, would at the end of every morning practice, like, he'd always be like, "Go get some A's." Like, they cared about school, and, yes, we did get some accommodations where we got to sign up for classes earlier so that you could pick classes that didn't conflict with practice
Okay.
schedule. I definitely picked my classes, like, according to my practice schedule, and only until, like, maybe my junior or senior year, I had some that conflicted, and so then I did have to, like, accommodate swimming a little bit, um, but for the most part and I went to the University of Georgia, big school, big athletic school, there were quite a bit of options, and there were times where I had to make up tests, which was quite hard, especially studying accounting because our tests were, like, 4 hours long, and so if you
Oh.
missed that, like, you're doing it in the evening sometime after you got back, and I I tell people even now, like, I majored in swimming. I do think that. I think I learned a lot about that. I graduated, I got a degree, and it was very hard, and if I honestly could go back, sometimes I wish I I knew I had 4 years of scholarship money, which was a mixture of swimming and school and academic money, so that might have been also my piece. I wasn't just on an athletic scholarship. I did have to maintain some grades, but I wish I had even, like, taken out student loans or something to go a 5th year and kind of lightened my
Mhm.
academic load while I was swimming so that and taken I'm like, "What was my hurry?" But I wanted to make money, and
Yeah.
I didn't wanna take on the debt, and I wanted to make money because I just didn't have that, so I'm like, "You do the best you can with the information you have in the moment," but I think that would probably be my advice, like, to student athletes now is, just it is a lot to do both, you can do both, but also, like, recognize the fatigue that causes and maybe you can be on a slightly different plan than all of your peers, and that's okay in the long run. Someday you're 40 and you're going back to the same job you had when you were 24 anyway. What was the rush? But yeah, I think I was lucky. So again, went back to Mary, I was surprised that those, even especially the Ivy League, um, that
Yeah,
they
don't major in chemistry.
would
That's what
say
they
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. Like, that part, I am actually like, I cannot imagine, like, a coach saying that. Like, but it is unfortunate that that did happen to her, and then it kind of set her on a very unhealthy path.
Do you think it's different among sports? Because I feel like even when I was a little kid and I was excited about, like, the 1996 Olympics, everyone was
Mhm.
at Stanford and they were all studying to be doctors. And, like, to me, it felt like that's what swimmers were just like, yeah, the really like, on the really hard academics, at least back then. I don't know if there's different I mean, obviously different sports have different I think that is true. Different sports have different emphasis, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and again, my background is mostly swimming too, so and that was how I felt. I felt like they cared about the academics, and maybe track and cross country is different because you have cross country, indoor track, outdoor track, you're, like, almost always competing. Although swimming at the high level, you stay during the summer, you swim long
Yeah.
course in the summer, you're trying to make Olympic teams, that kinda thing. So that is a very good question. I don't know, and that could be it, like, that was the experience. I am curious as, as a parent, Jocelyn, like, I'm like, do you feel like Mary's parents were very smart, they're both doctors.
Right.
Like, how do
Yeah.
you feel about, like, how her relationship was with her high school coach, Mitchell, who didn't make her one of the favorites and kind of let other parents bully her and other teammates and
That
would sit
was
and watch that?
odd. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like didn't they try to get her to, like, switch schools?
it was
Maybe?
well, they definitely like, they had her race with like, he quit coaching her, and then she raced with the boys' team coaches for a little
Yeah.
while, which she liked, and then the boys' team coaches left, and then they came up with some obscure New York State rule that said that she had to be with the girls' team, and
The whole thing was weird, but yeah, I'm like I feel like they were supportive, but it was like, I don't know, was it, like, just out of their control to like, what can you do as a parent if I'm sure they complained, and
I
I'm
mean,
sure that
she
didn't
only
help.
says good things about her parents, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it is when you're dealing with the, like, dynamics of your community,
Huh.
and you're, like, ingrained in that community, it is hard, and I wonder if, like, the relationship she had with Mitchell and that parent group and the other athletes kind of set her up very well to be exploited then by Alberto Salazar.
Right, right, like, if she had actually had a supportive team growing up, maybe he wouldn't have been the only option, even though she saw him as, like, the best of the best. But, yeah, I it did seem like she got to a point where she was like, "Well, nobody else is gonna wanna coach me because nobody wanted to coach me before."
Have you ever seen that before in your experience as an athlete, or, can you think back
Oh,
to, like, being a young like, on a high school team? Was there ever anyone that was, like, a fast person that was so ostracized?
this like it's mind-blowing because I feel like the faster people would be more popular.
Jen, you feel the
Right?
same way? I see
I
you
feel
shaking your
this
head.
similarly, like, this is it's so opposite, but
Yeah.
of
I
what I
will
would expect.
yeah, and I have my own experience. I think I was on so many different teams, and I especially with swimming, I was fairly fast, in high school and even cross country. I moved to South Carolina after my sophomore year, so leading into my junior year, and that was a big culture shock, and I was going into a community where there were already very defined roles, like, on the relay teams and on the swim team, and even in Colorado, there were a lot of reasons why I ended up switching schools, and I I I I admire Mary, how she doesn't name children and she doesn't, like, necessarily blame the other girls, because
Mhm.
I did feel at some points like, my family was, moving for certain reasons, and I was like 14 years old. It was not because of me, that I was on a team or off a team. But sometimes it felt like people were mad at me or didn't want me on the relay or did want me on the relay. And the only thing I kind of had going for me at that time was I was so unhappy that I didn't care that the other parents and kids maybe didn't like me or didn't want me on the relay. I was like, fine, I will just not be on your relay. Like, that is totally fine. One less race for me. So I think there was a little bit of that. Like, I experienced that a little bit. And I do think I'm not a parent, but I do think as if I were, and even now, even just as a coach or I don't coach young people, but I think what Mary said about maybe like not like blaming a child for the parents' actions. I do
Right.
think that that's like, because a kid can't decide to like move schools, not really. Like, that's
Sure.
not really a decision that a kid makes usually. And so like not getting angry or excluding them. I think, I don't know. There were a few things, but honestly, even now I'm like, whatever, which is another good lesson because it's like those things are so big when you're that age, right? When you're
Yeah.
14, 15 years
Yeah.
old, it's like your whole world. That's all you know. And I
Yeah.
think even some of the parents, that's all they know. But then you get, 30 years down the road and you're just like, oh, whatever, like everything worked out just fine. And
I
maybe
mean, I
there's a
do
lesson in
love
that.
that she names all the names of the adults. That was fun.
It's a good like burn book. Did you spend any time Googling while
Okay, so the first page. Did you guys read Lauren Fleshman's book?
I have not read Lauren Fleshman's book?
Okay, I have this. Here it is. I'm holding it up. Good for a
Good.
girl. So
Mhm.
I I really did love and idolize Lauren Fleshman. She went to Stanford, and I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area. Um, but in the very introduction, she talks about such a great introduction. But she goes on about how all these pro women like use their name and like, oh my gosh, even one woman said she almost saved me in her book that she wrote. And I was like, I know what that book is. It was Lauren Fleshman's book.
Okay, because she doesn't name Lauren, but if you know, you know.
And then I did end up going back because Lauren's book came out a while ago. And I was like, I remember exactly when she did this little excerpt on how she saw Mary Cain at that one track meet where I think it was pouring rain and then Alberto chewed her out in front of a bunch of coaches and athletes. And she mentions how her biggest regret is that she didn't say anything, and she almost went to her to give her her phone number. And then it was but then that was it. And then yeah, after reading Mary Cain's book, I went back to Lauren's book and I was like, yeah, what was the point of even saying all of that?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm skipping ahead to the end, but I think there are a lot of things that we learn as we get older. And Mary even talks about like kind of forgiving her younger self or like realizing that she didn't do anything right. But also she does say in the end that no one has actually like reached out to her and been like, I'm sorry, which is
Right,
really sad. It is
right.
very sad. So moving on to that part of the book where she's with Alberto. She's very
Huh.
excited. She's finally on a team. She's feeling this attention that she's always wanted from a coach. And she has teammates who kind of seem like friends. She's running really well, breaking the, mile records that are from the 90s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So these records that are 30 years old at the time, and she's running faster than any teenage girl. And one of the things that stuck out to me, I was like, I did, just how young she was. I think this was happening
Right.
around like 2012, 2013 time. And I'm like, oh my goodness, she's like 16 years old being coached
Yeah.
by this pro coach. Like, you don't see that in
She
running.
was still a teenager, like a young teenager.
How did you feel about that relationship, Jen, again, as an educator, as a person who sees humans make that transition from high school to college to how do you feel about her being 16 and in that pro environment?
I was thinking about this. I was thinking about like how even just 10 years ago that kind of like, oh, stay at my house. Like I'm a like for example, I will have an international student join my lab. And like 10 years ago, I think it'd be really typical for them to like live with you for like 3 weeks as they like got their footing in the United States. But like now that seems like really inappropriate to me. I feel like it's like
Uh-huh.
weird power dynamics and or like people asking your students in your class like if someone will walk your dog for you. You know, it's like no, there's some lines here of where it's like I control your grades. I don't ask you for those kinds of things.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I think like I'm really sensitive to that now. And but I think there was a different perception of it before. So like her parents were chill with her living with Alberto here and there, you
Mhm.
know, for her visits. And now it feels like really, really different. And so I think, especially because he was a father of girls, right? Like he had a daughter. And so that seemed, you know, I think perhaps that made it seem okay. But when I remember reading some of the way he talked to her and emailed her. I feel like the emails are like real, like it's not her memory. Like an email is like a real piece of evidence. He
Sure.
just used this like grooming language of like, I can fix you and you need me. And I think that yeah, he worded things to make the family seem like he was the way to being excellent.
Right. And his accolades, I mean, his personal accomplishments, winning the Boston Marathon, winning the New York City Marathon, having coached
Mhm.
Galen Rupp, Mo Farah, these Olympic, legends, you can see where it's very enticing. Jocelyn, I want to hear your takes on the team dynamic of the Nike Oregon project. What did you think when you're reading about this
Oh my
team?
gosh. So, for our listeners that don't know, I was a part of Team TVV, which was coached by Brett Sutton. And so it was an in-person training camp experience. And I got a little PTSD from just reading it, and it brought back all these memories that it has been since like, it's been over 15, 16 years, and so it wasn't all bad, but then there was a lot of stuff where I was like, "Yeah, I kinda, like, pushed that out of my mind," but there was, like, bullying, there was, like, fat shaming, there was a lot of weird eating habits that, like, myself and other teammates picked up, and it was,
Like
like,
what?
really.
I mean, you all were adults, right? So
Yes,
how old
yes.
were you when you were on Team
I was
TBV?
actually one of the youngest. I think I was 25. But yeah, the other teammates were like 5 plus years older than me. So I was quite a bit younger. Actually, Angela Naeth was about the same age as me when she was on that team. Um, but people would, and I don't know about the guys because I mostly lived with the other women, but there was one woman that only ate like carbs. She was, like, on the, like, high carb, zero fat plan, and then they would make they would we would, like yeah, they would also talk about there was one girl who, like, couldn't seem to lose weight, and they were like, "Oh, she just has a block of cheese in her fridge, like, she's not eating." And
Wait,
then
wait, they're saying that, like, she's hiding food because that's why. That's why she isn't losing weight. She's
like,
hiding food
they were
somewhere.
like, "She's probably starving herself, and that's why she's not losing weight." But
Okay, so they actually did think that, like, maybe if there's a
yeah.
chance that she's not eating enough, and
And then
that's why.
there was another woman where I think one of the guys was like, she'll just, like, put stuff in her mouth to taste it and then spit it out. And we ate a lot of salads, like, really big salads. It was, like, so different than now how they talk about fueling so much more and how you need to fuel to eat, but I do remember being, like, so hungry a lot and, like, going to the store and going by the bakery section and just, like, breathing in and being like, "Oh, that smells so good," and then I would go and, like, get an apple. It was
And you're doing Ironman. You're doing several Ironmans a
yes.
year. You're training, like, 25 to 30 hours a week.
We trained, like, 30. to 35 hours. Yeah, we trained a lot. We were training like 3 times a day, like big workouts. Mm. And I remember I was in denial that that I wasn't eating because I was eating, but I was eating like very little. And it was I know at one point Brett would like commend me in front of other people for how well I and how quickly I could lose weight to the point where he wanted me to talk to Teresa Massel, she was a Canadian teammate who ended up getting 4th in Kona that year. But before that Kona trip, he was like, I want you to talk to Teresa about like losing weight because you're really good at it. And I
Wait,
was just
you
like,
were supposed to give her advice.
advice on how to lose weight, which I refused because I was just like, what the fuck? She's so much faster than me. I am not gonna like who am I to tell her how to lose weight? And she went on and got 4th in Kona.
So it isn't always tied to performance, it was tied to aesthetics.
I think so. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
how did
because
you feel about your body during that time?
it was well, I came on as like the slowest, like chubbiest girl on the team. And really I was like not super lean, but I was not actually chubby either. Um, so it was hard. Like initially when he wanted to talk to me about like eating, I like cried. And then he was like, come back to me when you're ready to be a serious athlete.
Mm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there was an element of control in that versus, again, performance?
I don't know if it was just, it just seems he wasn't into like sports science at all. Like he always talks shit about sports scientists. And I do think nowadays, like everyone just knows you're supposed to eat more. But he would say, like, on race day and race week, he would have us make sure we ate more. Like on race day, treat it like it's a buffet. So we were encouraged to like eat a lot during the race. And it's race week, don't starve yourself. But hey, if it wasn't race week, then starve yourself. Which was just it was nuts. Yeah. I was like my eating was like messed up for a long time after I was off the team. Like I couldn't actually eat normally in front of other people. And it just like took me a long time to get out of this. Like, I don't have celiac disease. I don't need to avoid gluten. Like I don't need to avoid bread. But even now, like I have bread in the fridge, but I don't always think to make a sandwich, which is just very different than like growing up. It was like, oh, let me make a peanut butter sandwich. Let me have a sandwich for lunch. And now I'm just like, I'll buy sandwiches, but I don't always make sandwiches, it's kind of weird.
Looking back on your career, do you think you could have had better performances had you had healthier eating habits?
I think definitely. I think I also fell in the trap where like my fastest season was when I weighed the lightest. And so I was probably 20 pounds less than I am now. And that was like 2009, and I was definitely not eating enough, but I had my fastest Ironman PR then, and then the next year, it was always like, "Why can't I be as fast as I was before?" It's because I'm not that skinny anymore, which wasn't true. There was a lot of other factors, but yeah, I think there was also a lot of psychological damage that I probably should have talked to a therapist after, which I didn't. But it was just, yeah, it was some crazy times.
Interesting. So it wasn't quite the same thing we saw in Mary's book about where I mean, it sounds there are some similarities with like
Yeah,
but your experience, you know, where she always felt like she was overweight. Everyone was telling her she needed to lose weight. Alberto's telling her she needs to lose weight. And you know, the internet is saying she needs to lose weight. You were kind of the opposite where you were maybe able to lose weight,
I
but
was
and people were giving you
unfortunately,
positive
yes.
feedback.
Mhm.
But even now you're able to look back and be like, oh, maybe that wasn't good. Jen, like, did you have any experience with this? I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty healthy experience growing up. Did you have any coaches who, because swimming is a sport where like you're
You're
in a bathing suit.
exposed. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have any unhealthy, now looking back, that maybe you didn't recognize in the moment, but like coaches that encouraged unhealthy habits with food?
I don't think so. I did have someone who was like a former All-American as part of our like cross-country coaching team group. And I don't remember her ever pressuring us. But I do feel like I feel like the only thing that's like related to eating is I do remember I was in my second year of college at Wisconsin, and I was training for the Chicago Marathon back when it was easy to get in, and I remember feeling so accomplished when I lost my period. I was like, "I'm training good enough to lose it." And so, but I don't remember it being associated with hunger. But I did, like, in my head, that is what was a signal of I'm working hard enough. So, like, at that time, it wasn't a bad thing. I didn't think it was a bad thing. I thought it was a great thing. I was like, I'm trying, I'm pushing. But
That is
it wasn't tied to anyone else. It was just in my head and what I was taking in from what I was reading, and yeah.
Yeah, do you think you read that? Because I'm like, I'm always like, because you'll hear these stories where people think that's a good
Mhm.
thing, and I'm like, where did they learn that?
Mhm.
Because I don't think anyone ever said that to me, and I don't think I ever read that growing
I
up.
I don't know exactly where I picked it up, but I think it was definitely something out there, and I knew that it would happen if you trained hard, and it was a sign I was training hard.
Yeah, so that happened to me that season I was telling you about where I was like the lightest I'd ever been, the fastest I'd ever been. And then I lost my period for 3 months. I did mention it to Brett, and he was like, well, sometimes that happens when you get really fit. Um, and
Yeah,
then,
it's a sign of fitness or
yeah, and
something.
then I went home. So I was never in training camp, I would say, for more than 3 or 4 months at a time. And then in between, I would go home to California where my mom would like to fatten me back up. And I do remember my older sister was always like, "Oh, it's kind of so weird how you just like your weight just yo-yos so much back and forth." But I would like gain weight going home, and then I did get my period back. So I only ever lost it those 3 months and then never lost it again. And I like at this point I'm grateful that my fertility didn't get affected. And so there had been times where I was always like, what if I had tried harder? Like, what if I had stuck in the sport longer? And then it's also like, well, what if you like totally fucked up your body and you couldn't have children and you couldn't like be active anymore or run or do all the things that you like to do now? And so then I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I got out when I did.
Yeah, it is really fascinating, and I think for me it's really sad hearing Mary's story because she is 10 years younger than me,
Hmm.
and I feel like so much of it is you wanna be like, "Things got better. Things got better after me," and then it's like, "No, it didn't." Like, it
Hmm.
didn't, and I think that that's really sad. I did have a high school coach who used calipers and did,
Uh,
testing like that on deck. Definitely had coaches weigh us, had coaches, that made us swim with weights during taper. Like, you'd have to wear a weight belt, so, like, that's what it
hmm.
feels like if you gain 5 pounds, which is not accurate. Um, like, coaches that wouldn't let us eat bread at meets. We were not allowed to have food on deck ever. And even
Yeah,
in college, we only ever had water. And I honestly only ever had water for 400 IM group. And I am a little angry now because when I crashed and I broke my hand, the first thing the doctor said to me when I woke up was, you have soft finger bones. And
yeah,
I had to get a DEXA scan, and, I do have osteopenia. And I do think a lot of that is related to my teenage years
sure.
and swimming and the culture around that, where now we kind of realize that, like, especially in swimming, weight really does not matter, and if anything, like,
Yeah.
you have displacement in the water, and the best swimmers today are not small people, um, but like Jen mentioned, you are you're in a bathing suit. And so I think there is this idea that it's
Yeah.
tied to performance and the aesthetic is tied to performance, and it's not. And it mostly just makes me sad that that is still happening. And as someone who is now 40 years old and knows I have osteopenia and who would like to continue being able to be active, and I do now make a bigger effort to have a calcium rich diet and to
Mhm.
take care of the bone health that I have. And also I think it is important to share Mary's story and for us to share our stories so that hopefully it does stop. I'm like, oh, it made me very sad.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it seems like the camaraderie between pro women is better than before. I don't know if that's true because I've been out of it for so long, but I know when I was like on the team, um, it was like the faster girls were like super clicky and they would like kind of bully me, like laugh in my face, but also, I don't know, it made me like not trust training with other people for a long time because I would always feel like I was being judged. Like, was she fast enough to be a pro? Like, I had trouble like finding age groupers to train with because I would feel super self conscious. And I don't know that it's still the same. What would you say?
I think it has gotten better. I do think it's gotten better. I think honestly, I think the money in the sport is better
Mm-hmm.
now, and I think that that helps it. I think that when everyone is fighting over scraps, over,
Mm-hmm.
$1,000 paycheck, and like she's going to get my $1,000 and I'm going to get zero, you create that environment where everyone is a lot of animosity and like really disliking each other. And I think there are more opportunities, more earning potential now. I mean, it's probably not perfect, and this is triathlon that I'm speaking about, of course,
Yeah.
but I think that that's my opinion. I don't know, Jen, you've been in the sport for a long time. We should say this. Like, you did your first Ironman, was it like 2007
7. Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
Wisconsin?
Yeah.
And were you there, Jocelyn? Did you do the
Yeah,
same one?
were we both there?
I did 2002, 2006, no, 2005, and then 2010.
Oh, so you weren't at
Yeah.
the same race. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, you could have been that." But, do you feel like it has changed? I know you didn't race pro, but you've been around the sport for a long time, and you've followed some of the sport. Like, do you think it's changed or gotten better, or no difference?
I don't think I know. I don't think I know. I'm not
That's
sure.
very fair. That is very fair. I wanna hope it's better. I do wanna hope it's better. Moving on to kind of Mary as she's getting out of pro running and
Yeah.
going through all of her injuries and watching Alberto get banned from the sport. First for I mean, I think he was put on probation for doping allegations, which no one ever tested positive, but then it was ultimately the sexual assault
Yeah.
allegations brought forward by Kara Goucher that got him banned for the sport for life. Mary was able to have a lawsuit, against Alberto and Nike that she won. Like, I think we were just looking it up, like $20 million lawsuit
Mhm.
for the abuse that she suffered. And Jen, you mentioned that New York Times piece that really opened the floodgates on that. Having just watched it, how do you feel about reading her account of it?
I think that she really, really wants to advocate for change. I
Mhm.
think that's the most important thing to her. I think it seems like she's found ways to really get herself through it mentally and physically. And yeah, she really wants to make a difference and yeah, have the light shown on where this is happening and turn it around. And I think your point about competition for funding, I guess we were looking at her foundation and that's kind of what it provides. It provides funds for jobs and for rising pro athletes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that Atalanta, New York City, which she did try to create jobs for other pro athletes that they could do alongside their training, and it's a big help. Like, having raced in a professional setting, and Jocelyn, you and I have talked about this a lot, like, one of the biggest challenges is the financial stress. Like, the financial
Yes.
stress where you are trying to race for your paycheck and you can have a really solid day and make $0 is
Mhm.
it's really hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's what made my second year so stressful is like the first year I feel like you're just like, I'm just happy to be here, living my best life. I don't care if I make money or not. But then the second year, you're just like, oh man, if I don't make money, if I don't break even, like, then like, what am I even doing?
And yeah, that is hard. Jocelyn, how do you feel about her exit from the sport and kind of her call to action near the end of the book?
Well, I know towards the end she wrote all those list of injuries and like surgeries she had to have, which is kind of insane. Um, it seemed like such a relief for her to like get out and cuz the whole time it's just like I don't know if I could read this book again cuz it was like so difficult and painful to read cuz she's writing it in the first person as if it's present day and she goes from being like what did she say? She was like so and so said I should stop eating my 12 Oreos every night, but I'm not going to listen to like calling herself fat and just like hitting herself and being like, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. And yeah, the whole time I'm just like, I know she's going to get out because we know how this story ends, but it's like so hard to read the part where you're just like, are you leaving yet? Like, is he going away yet? Is the bad man going away yet? So yeah, it was just a relief to finally get through the part where she's like, okay, like, I'm done. I'm splitting up with Alberto. Um, and I mean, I really commend her trying to make a change. It's such an important discussion to have. There's, especially with these NIL deals, I feel like, right? Coming in, there's like a lot more high schoolers that are getting recruited with these big money deals, which they didn't have before.
How did you leave Team TBB?
Um, I think I wanted to, my excuse, my excuse was that I wanted to go back into working in prosthetics and orthotics, which wasn't untrue, but I also, I wasn't in that training environment anymore. And I think I don't know if they were trying to push me out a little bit. It was during the recession, so they were trying to get everyone to align themselves with a bike shop. The whole goal was to have a bike shop in every country. TBB was like the bike boutique. That's what it stood for. So that's how I ended up in Delaware. There was a bike boutique in Delaware. That was the USA store. Um, so I think because they had that store, I was going to help get that up and running. But then I also wanted to work. I still wanted to work and race, which I don't think was common back then. I think most people went full time and it was really hard to work a different like a real job, a real career, non-triathlon other than like online coaching um while still racing. But I had planned to like work with one of my good teammates, Rebecca Preston, as my coach. Um And I think they still wanted me to stay, but I was like, "No, this other thing is like my ideal setup." And they were like, "Okay." But then I got hit by a car during a race, so it all ended up being like kind of moot anyway.
I'm sorry.
That was my last race for the team, and then I was like, "I'm gonna go out on my own. I'm gonna do this." And then I got in that car accident, so it didn't end up the way I wanted to. But yeah, I had been on that team for 4 years.
Jen, as someone who sees young people, and you may not, and you're also like you're a leader in the triathlon space and you are seeing new endurance athletes come into the sport at any age. Do you have advice for people, because there are these pitfalls in endurance sport, whether it's, where you can just it might be a coach who's saying this, but it could also be your favorite pro on YouTube. It could be a random person on Instagram. It could be anywhere now. Like, do you have advice for people who want to get into a new sport like triathlon? Like, how do you keep yourself healthy and from ending up in a bad situation? Do you have any advice? It's kind of a big question. I was looking
It is a giant question. We can all answer it. I guess, like, you know what? One thing that crossed my mind when reading the book is I don't think this would necessarily happen with a lot of people, especially with families and like really established work lives. But at least with younger folks, like when you hear about we read
Mhm.
Mary's book, like I don't know what else she liked. Like I don't know what else she, I guess, she said she wanted to be a writer as well, but her running took over entirely. And
Mhm.
so like how do you keep going with like other parts of yourself? So I wonder if
Yeah.
that's, especially if you're really young getting into this and you're making it like your number one top priority and like maybe you're whatever being an influencer or something alongside of it. Like how do you maintain like those other parts of yourself?
And to follow up on that, I am curious if you see someone, like if you are in a situation, if you're in Lauren Fleshman's situation and you see someone in what seems like a bad situation, like do you think you'd be able to do something?
To like say something.
Yeah.
The one thing that I've heard before is like, especially if we're getting into the dark stuff, right? If we're getting into
Yeah.
self-harm or suicide, like it's important to say something. So I guess the research shows that you don't trigger someone into
Yeah.
going into a dark place. If they're already there, they're already there, and you don't push people into it. So if you are in a position where you feel brave enough to talk to someone about it, there's no harm. You're not going to cause harm.
I feel like I would at least say, "Hey, are you okay?"
Uh-huh.
Like it
I
didn't.
wanna hope, but I'm like, I
Yeah.
can think back on my own life when there were
Yeah.
situations where I know I I I didn't say something and
Yeah.
I do regret. Like, I
Yeah.
definitely have regrets. Like,
Yeah.
not necessarily where it was as high profile as Lauren Fleshman's
Sure.
situation, and she's watching, this 16-year-old get yelled at by their coach in the rain, but I can think of other situations and I'm like, I didn't have it in me to say something. I hope going forward I will because like Jen said, worst case, they're mad at you and they're like, don't get involved. But
Mhm.
you could be the friend that they needed or the voice that they needed.
Yeah, I was really
Sure.
mad when she shared that she was self-harming and everyone was like, "Don't bother me." It
Well,
was really
when the
upsetting.
coach and the so-called psychologist were just like, "I'm tired, we're going to bed." That was so sad. Yeah.
Yeah. And also making sure that just because someone's high profile that they have the training. I mean, that was very sad where you're, like, thinking that Nike would have all the best resources. I think that's, like, another thing that we look at things on social media and we're like, "Oh my gosh, of course Nike has the best psychologist in
Uh-huh.
the world." And then we find out this guy isn't even a real psychologist.
No.
Um, so it's okay to question that stuff. I mean, again,
Yeah.
you might make someone mad, you might offend someone, you might hurt their
Sure.
feelings, but you also might really make things better.
Right. Yeah, and then as a parent, I'm like, "All right, I'm gonna, like, Google you. I'm gonna learn more. Um, I'm gonna make sure if you say who you say you are." And yeah, for me, it's like I am having a kid that is navigating a brand new sport for both of us, which traditionally I know Catherine Bertine was saying how figure skating had always been like a lot of eating disorders as well. So I'm doing my best from everything I've learned to not have us go down that path. And right now we're just doing it for fun. Our motto is be brave and have fun.
We admire you, Jocelyn, breaking the cycle. Jen, you too, with all the youth. DQ them when they deserve it. Teach
That's
them a nice little
right.
lesson. and but we will, there's a reason. There's a reason we learn and we grow and also try to do better. But thank you both for your patience and waiting for me to talk the book and I think bringing up this important topic. Before I let you go, we this is a holiday week, but also race week. Race week for me. I'm
That's
finally getting on the start
right.
line. at the Bangtail Divide 38K, if anyone is in Montana. I don't think it's quite the spectator race. It's point to point, 38K
Are
through
you
the
still
woods.
biking to the start line?
No, because I got mixed up. Jen and our friend Taylor did the crosscut 20K this last weekend. And that one started at 9 a.m. I think I had looked up that course and I was like, 9 a.m. That's awesome. You could ride your bike there. My race starts at like 6:30 a.m. And I was like, oh, that's a little early to be like up riding up to Bridger Canyon. And also, I now have like a healthy fear of just like 38K is like 23 miles or something like that on trail. Like
Yeah.
I have enough new things. Like I said, I'm working on it. I think having this has been on my calendar has been one of the best things I have done. I've talked a lot about the
Yay!
mistakes I have made over the last 6 months. There's been a lot, but I think getting my name on a start list has been really good. I've probably asked too many people for advice, to the point where I'm like,
That's
wear a vest, don't wear
okay.
a vest, only have this. Like, you don't want extra weight running up the hill. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, my goal is not to win this race. My goal is to do a new sport, see if I like it,
Yeah.
have fun, get a little dopamine hit, that buzz of being at a race, which I felt, honestly, being at that 100-miler last weekend, even just one aid station, I felt that love and admiration I had for all the athletes, for their crews, and it helped me realize sport is important. And I think that bringing it back to Mary's book, like sport is important. It can be unhealthy in certain ways, but there are healthier ways. There are very good friendships you can be made. Can be good for your health in other ways, as long as, you have that support crew around you that keeps you in check. And so I feel like I'm getting there. So this is going to be fun. Hopefully just, I'll go out there and be brave and have fun. And, the weather looks really good for my race. So that's
Yay!
also good. So I'll hopefully
Awesome.
have a good report on that next time I podcast, whenever that is. And then also this weekend, are either of you doing anything for the 4th? Any races? Any firecracker 5Ks? Nothing.
No,
Nope.
maybe I'll go to your finish line.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll ride my bike up there.
Shit,
Yes, yes.
oh my God, yeah. Yes, I can wear, I might bring my phone with me. This was another thing. Maybe I'll ask you too. Do you think if I wear a vest, it's pretty easy to have a phone? Do you
You
think I should do that?
should
'Cause I brought this up to
absolutely
my
have
friend
your
Nikki.
phone.
Okay, I brought it to my friend Nikki, who's like quite fast, and she was like, "No, why would you?" And I never have before, but I'm like,
Oh,
this is the new like what if it's a really pretty view and I want to take a picture?
yeah.
Like, I think, and the vest, that's one nice thing about the vest. Like,
It's got
you can
pockets.
place to stash it. So I think I will. So maybe I'll let you can track me, or I can wear AirTag or something like that, so you can time it so you're up at Bracket Creek, and that would be so fun. Okay, that would be very fun. That got me very excited. Again, no pressure. See how the weather is. But that would be very fun. Another big triathlon race happening. Challenge Roth is on the 5th, July 5th. We saw this big heat wave moving through Europe. I think it is supposed to calm down a bit this week. Oh,
Heat
okay.
wave.
Jocelyn laughs, but also that is unfair, because I think as someone who has lived other places, when they do not have the infrastructure for certain weather, it becomes very bad. So we are not laughing. No, we do not laugh at canceled or shortened races. Heat is dangerous. They don't have ice in Europe. Like,
Which is, if you watch Frozen, you'd be really confused that they don't have ice there.
okay, good point. Good point. But you both just told me Laura Phillip out of Roth.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a little bit of a downer. I do think it still could be kind of warm there. Like, we're talking like 80s maybe for the high. We know, Kat Matthews Racing would love to break 8 hours. Annie Haug set that world record there a few years ago at 8:01. Do you think we could see a world record for the women? Do you think anyone's going sub 8?
Is Solveig racing?
I don't think Solveig's racing.
Then no. She's my new favorite.
Okay. So with Jocelyn saying no, it will be fun to watch. I do have Bethany, an age group athlete who's racing, so I'm excited to hear about it, just because,
Yeah.
Jocelyn, you said you never raced Roth.
I've never raced there, but anyone else I know that have raced it has raved about it.
they say the crowds going up that solar
Yeah.
hill.
Yeah.
So I might have to tune in for some of that, even though it'll be like late at night, but it'll be after my race. So perfect. And I think that was when I never quite made it to. I was on my bucket list, but we just were looking at the list before this, and Ben Hoffman from the United States racing. I thought Ben retired before I did, and yeah, seems like maybe he's making a comeback to go race in Roth. And so I was like, oh, maybe there's still something in there. I think part of that's like off road on a gravel path, right? So that's like into my new thing.
Yeah, you should just message them and be like, give me a free entry just to do it.
As an age grouper,
it's hard to get into.
In like a minute, and like it's like crazy. And otherwise, you have to do a tour group. I don't know. I'm like, but we'll get the scoop from Bethany on how special it is. But
Yeah.
or if someone else, one of our other listeners, would like to tell us about that. But be fun to watch this weekend. See, world record watch from Kat Matthews. We'll see. I mean, she did just run really fast at where is she in Elsinore? So you never know. And she does well in the heat. So we'll see. But thank you both so much for coming on. Have a great evening, and I will chat with you soon.
Good night.